And secret signal. What's this?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting, Taber Town Council, April 23rd, 2019. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for an adoption of the agenda, please. Councilor Garner, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1, minutes of regular meeting of the council, April 8th, 2019. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, the first thing up as usual is the consideration of the meeting minutes from your previous meeting, April the 8th. Any changes, please direct your administration and we'll do those accordingly.
Great, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Brown?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 8th, 2019 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, business arising. There is no business arising. Item 5, bylaws. Item 5.1, bylaw 06-2019 Eureka Area Structure Plan. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, I'm going to call up Ms. Phyllis Monks to do the presentation on the Eureka Area Structure Plan. This has been probably about a year and a half in the making, realigning all of our roadways and making this ripe for development. Ms. Monks, can you please explain the process?
Thank you, Ms. Monks.
So good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So this area structure plan is intended to provide a comprehensive development concept for the development of our Eureka area structure. Our Eureka Industrial Park. Start that over. So the Municipal Government Act, and actually just did a little bit of a mini presentation for this. The Municipal Government Act under section 633(1) sets out that for the purpose of providing a framework for subsequent subdivision and development of an area of land, a council may by bylaw adopt an area structure plan. So just a little bit of background. In January 2018, the town put out a request for proposal for an area structure plan, and it was awarded to ISL Engineering. We began our work with a stakeholder workshop that we held in June of 2018. There was a business and industrial area structure plan rail analysis that was completed for us in August of 2018. A draft report was then circulated to all legislated parties as well as adjacent landowners. And for this one, we included those along the potential rail right-of-way, so including those outside of the Eureka area structure plan, but in the existing Eureka land development area. Just anyone that would be impacted by having a rail through that existing right-of-way that we have in place. We held open houses on February 27th, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. And then the final report was completed and presented to our Municipal Planning Commission on April 15th, 2019, and MPC recommended adoption of the bylaw and area structure plan. So the Eureka Area Structure Plan, as I had said, provides for comprehensive industrial business park development. There are 2 development options that we've provided as part of the plan. We've got options 5A and 5B. We kept running into problems when we started working on the layout of the plan, and if we went with rail, how it would look, and then if we didn't move forward with the rail, how we would then implement that into a road network that made sense, as well as lotting that made sense. And we just at one point realized that you couldn't kind of do them both, so we split them up and we put option A and option B. So if you moved ahead with rail, the lotting would look a particular way. If you moved ahead with just road network, it would look the other way. We'll hit a certain point as we develop out the area where we'll have to make a decision that relates to whether we go forward with protecting for that rail or whether we just move ahead and do the industrial park. And at that deciding factor, we can then flip from one option to the other without having to go back in and redo the document or amend the document and have to go through that whole process. So we could go ahead with a land sale and just continue on without having to then take that extra time required to amend it. So that's why we've done it that way. Next slide there. Yeah. So alternatives that council gives first reading to the bylaw the way it's presented, or that council provide amendments that they would like to see, or that council tables the Eureka area structure plan and requests us to make amendments that are more extensive to the document if you had any concerns or issues with it the way it stands. Thank you.
Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Bruin?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. So by passing first reading, we're not limiting ourselves yet then for this?
No, we aren't. So our next steps will include a public hearing. And so anyone who hasn't had an opportunity or hasn't come forward with any comments or concerns could come forward to council at that public hearing and make their comments known. Or if council had any additional comments that came forward or you felt you wanted to address or change, we still could make those changes before second and third reading.
All right, thank you. Councillor Garner?
I think I'm prepared at this time to make a motion. The council gives first reading to bylaw 06-2019 and the Eureka Area Structure Plan as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 5.2, bylaw 7-2019, proposed fee bylaw. Mr. Armfield?
Yes, Ms. Phillips, if you would like to come up. With the new Director of Recreation, there's been some new ideas generated to come up with some additional revenue to the municipality and a few other options for recreation for Taber citizens. And so with regards to that, we are looking for council to consider approving a few new fees within the fee bylaw. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Phillips to discuss what those are.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Armfeldt indicated, there's some new fees that I've included in the proposed fee bylaw for new program ideas. Not much more to say than
Thank
that.
you. Any questions related to that? Councillor Firth?
Mr. Mayor, through to Ms. Phillips. The WSI skills evaluation, and there's some WSI, I just wanted to know what that was.
Water safety instructor. It's a course we ran for years, but the Canadian Red Cross changed the layout of the courses. So our fee just wasn't working anymore for the way that they've branched it out into 3 separate sections.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Towns?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
That council gives first reading to fee bylaw 7-2019 at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we're prepared to make a second motion. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council give second reading to fee bylaw 7-2019 at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the third motion requirement to go to a third reading. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council unanimously agrees to proceed to third and final reading to fee bylaw 7-2019 at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the third reading bylaw or motion requirement. Councillor Garner.
That council gives third and final reading to fee bylaw 7-2019 at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to action items number 6.1. AVA Digital Award for Town Website. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, so council is aware that we amended our website, changed up our website, and we've been receiving some accolades for that, and probably this is the most impressive one to date, going towards the IT department. So if you would like, your worship, I will meet you in front of the flags with some hardware, and if Mr. Abdel Khalik would like to meet us there as well, and yes, as soon as he gets his tie fixed, I'm going to take a picture.
Sorry, Andy.
Thank you.
And good job of presenting too, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I had help. All right, on to item 6.2. Pardon me? Oh, sir, do we need a motion for that? Oh, just to accept it?
So there's a recommended motion there with
Okay,
that. Yep.
sir, yes, we do. All right. All right, someone prepare to make that motion. Counselor Stratwell.
That council accepts the 2019 AVA Digital Award presentation for information.
Great, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried now. Thank you. Good job. Item 6.2, 2019 amended operating budget. Mr. Arfel?
Yeah, I'd like to call Mr. Orwa up for the next presentation. As you are aware, administration has been moving through the challenges of lower than anticipated assessment values in some of the properties in town, and some amendments that council has requested that we make to the 2019 budget. So we have crunched some numbers and provided council with some options. At this point, Mr. Orwell will present those options, and council can deliberate and give us direction on how to balance the budget.
Okay, Mr. Orwell?
Thank you very much, members of council. Now, we do have here a presentation that has incorporated that 2% that council had already directed us to do. And as Mr. Armfeld said, we've given some options out there how to fund these particular increases that we had. We had two major increases. That was the 40,000 for the library. Then we had the one for the council remunerations. And again, we had, if you recall, we had a reduction of about 56,000 last time. But now you can see we have a reduction there of 63. That extra 7,000 came from some errors that we found that came out from the province. That is, there's one particular area, one of the rail spurs at Atlantic. Originally, it was being assessed by the municipal assessor. The province also picked that one up. So while we were going through the assessment, both for the province and for our municipal assessor, we identified that error. So we further reduced the revenue by another 7,000. That's why you're seeing that 63. Now, before I go to options, if you scroll for me to the first attachment there. So this is how our budget looks like. And you can see I've only identified the areas that we've touched on. You could see the increases there and, of course, some decreases there. So the increases, we have to get some revenue to fund those increases. And some of those increases are being offset by reduction in revenue above. Now, I've given you about 4 options out there, and then probably look at one of my recommendations. So in the next slide, we have, scroll a little bit. So I have those options. Now, if you look at the option A, that is the increase in the library, then a decrease in revenue. And that's how we're going to fund it if we pick option A. Then option B, just in case maybe if the council change their mind to fully fund the library, that is where option B comes in. You can now see increase in library additional 81. So we had another 41,000 there. And then option C, the funding is also down there for option B. Then if you go to C, we could also fund it by reducing the staff levels, and that was a very risky area. That's why we have a long list of write-up there. If you affect that particular area, I've also given you there the service level implications that it will have if you touch on the staffing. And then option D, we would say let everything come from reserves. So that is what we have for the changes in the budget. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4 items. And I've given you options there how to fund it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Orwell? Councillor Chavez.
Your worship, not that I have a question for Mr. Orwa, but in option C, in the reduction in staffing levels, I can't support that all the, what's the word I want to use? All the great things that our administration and public works and everything has done, recreation, all the departments, that we cut back on their staff. In particular, I'll just, the storm water ditch maintenance, including cutting, clearing of ditches and weed control, culvert repair and replacement. These are things that we've worked hard on to make and beautify this community over the last number of years. And, I'm not in favor of reducing any reduction in staffing levels. This is just counterproductive for our community.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Beckern.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orva, I'm leaning towards option D, as you might have guessed, perhaps. Can you please tell us the unrestricted reserves the town of Taber has right now, please?
At the end of 2018, December ending, the unrestricted came to about 2.7 million. 2.7 million.
Thank you, sir.
Now, just to add to that, we also had some movements going in at the beginning of the year, which of course we'll explain when we're looking at the financial statements as well.
Sorry, did you have something to add to that, Mr. Orr, or that's got it covered?
That's covered.
Okay, all right. Was there any other questions? Great, someone prepared to make a motion.
And Mr. Orwell, with this motion, you'll be looking for the identification of A, B, C, or D, correct?
That is correct. And you could see in my background, I've recommended option A, and it's now the council to decide otherwise. So if you go for option A, then I want that option A in the motion.
So whichever option council chooses, they make a motion indicating that option. Yep.
Councillor Towns?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Prepared to make a motion
All right.
that council approve the 2019 amended operating budget using option D, funding from reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Bruin.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. By doing option D, that means that we're going to fully fund the library and all the expenses here? Option D is covering all these expenses?
Can I just make some clarification there?
Sure.
Now, in the last council meeting, the council had directed that we only fund 40,000 to the library. Now, if that is the same one that we want to continue with and you want money to come out of reserves, it will only be 40,000. But we also indicated in option B that if council decides to fund the whole library, that is the shortfall for the 81,000, then the recommendations are also there. So if we have to go with the motion presented by Councillor Louis Terms, that means we'll have 40,000 going to the library from the reserves.
Right, okay, so just everybody on the same page with that? Okay. All right. Councillor Becker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion. And I guess the reason is that, we're almost past the first quarter of the year, and it's an amended budget. So I'd like to keep the budget lines sort of as they were. And I agree with Councillor Strohs, we should not be cutting back on services and staff. And I think there's sufficient funds in unrestricted reserves to support this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.3, proposed property tax bylaw 8-2019. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, so thank you, council, for your previous motion, knowing how the money stacks up now. We need a bylaw to go out and collect that revenue, and that's what this undertaking is. And Mr. Orwa, please explain your bylaw.
Thank you very much. So the bylaw itself, of course, we are just now putting through all our revenue plus all our expenses together. At the same time, factoring in the 2% that was recommended by council. So that one is already factored in the budget. Now we are going to collect that revenue. Now, the only addition to that is up to now, we've not received anything from the government pertaining to school requisition. So we decided to make some estimate out there. At the same time, the only additional thing, then again, that is out there, before you look at the bylaw, is the seniors. And again, we don't have any control there as well, because the seniors as well, it comes from through equalized assessment, and then based on their budget as well. So that is the bylaw, but if we go to continue down, I just want to show some attachments that I have there before we go into reading the bylaws. So this is how our mill rates is going to be. Now you can see it is 2% as council recommended, nothing has changed. The estimation is there for the school requisition. At the same time, you can also see the seniors. I looked at the seniors budget. I think they have also increased their budget by almost 7% year over year. You could see the seniors as well in 2017 is almost close to what we are seeing in 2019. But in 2017, they had one huge capital expenditure that increased their budget then. The rest of it, if you go to machinery and equipment, the same thing. The 2% is still out there. And then we do have, again, a grant in lieu, 2%. Then the next one, if you continue going down, then again we have our DIP. So again, with the DIP, you can see that DIP requisition, again, that is controlled by the government. We have no control at all. So this is what they're giving us, and we are going to collect the money on their behalf. And they've already, based on assessment, we are going to get the same revenue. So that is how our mill rate is going to be. Then the next attachment, this one is just what we normally give year after year, just for different areas within the community, so that you can see the assessment. I don't have the property addresses in there, but you could see what's happening out there. The only one probably that we need to pay attention to much that I wanted to draw council's attention is the last one on page 35. So if you go to continue to page 35, so those are just different properties within the town, and I just wanted to show year over year how.
How am I doing, John, with where do you want to go?
Yeah, that one, that's the one.
Okay.
You can see that is our big revenue generator out there. So year over year, you can see where we are going with that. So that's just an illustration, and we normally give this one year over year for council just to take a look on the assessment from different properties. And then the next slide. The next slide, this was, I put this one in here. This is what was requested by Councillor Joe last time, that we look at the mill rates, that is for the residential and non-residential, how they compare with other municipalities. So we just took in 2018 alone, and when you look at 2018, you can now see where Taba is. The red one is Taba, that is for residential municipal only. And you can see we are somewhere in the middle. The only municipalities below Taba in our collection there is Redcliffe, Edison, Devon, Olds, and the others. So that's where we stand with the residential mill rates. Now, if you go to the next slide, I also put in there the non-residential. Again, they're in order. You can see, again, where Taba lies. Maybe if you can lower the graph, I think would be the graph itself. So you can see the red again. This is where Taba is in terms of non-residential. That was a request that was made by council, so that they see and compare where we sit today. So based on that analysis with the 2% increase and the ones that we can control, now we've developed our bylaw that will allow us now to collect the revenue.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orva, I really appreciate your the graphing. It speaks very clearly, where we're at. On the non-residential graph, there's lots of talk in Calgary, right, about the disjointed relationship between the mill rate residential and mill rate non-residential. Can you give us an idea what the mill rate in Calgary is non-residential? Could it be something like 40?
I know it's a big controversy out there, and I've not seen the final numbers yet for 2019. And that's why even the ones examples I've given there, I've given you examples for 2018 that are already in there, but 2019 is still not out there. But when we get that, we'll share it with council.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
I can make that motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 8-2019 being the property tax bylaw for the town of Tabor at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'll make the second motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives second reading to bylaw 8-2019 being the property tax bylaw of the town of Tabor at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the third requirement to go to the third bylaw, Councillor Thames.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that council unanimously agrees to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 8-2019 being the property tax bylaw of the town of Tabor at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the fourth motion requirement, Councillor Stravos.
Yes, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Horwa for the presentation on the mill rates. We always hear, different stories from different communities where their mill rates are, and I thank you very much for that information. It lets us know that we're on the right track and we're positioned well. Thank you very much. That council gives third and final reading to bylaw 8-2019, being the property tax bylaw for the town of Tabor at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Roy. Item 6.4, 2018 audited financial statements. Mr. Renfro.
Yes, last week we had our audit committee meeting for the end of 2018, and the audited financial statements for 2018 were presented and approved at that meeting. Mr. Orwa, would you like to take over and have anything to add if there's any council questions?
I don't think I have a lot to add. So the financial statements have already been screened by the audit committee, and the presentation also was done by our auditors. The senior partner was here to present and all the audit findings. So we're just looking for, if at all, maybe council might have any additional questions that were never raised during the audit committee.
Great, thank you. Councillor Stravos.
Just a word, Your Worship. The auditor told us that we're in very healthy financial state, and that our administration, with direction from council, is doing a tremendous job, and a great hand goes out to the administration and all of you that they're doing well to keep us in such great financial state. For that, we thank you, and our auditor was very pleased with the fact is where we're staying in our debt ratio. It all stands to good reason. We've made some good decisions over the years here, and for that we thank you all.
Any other questions? All right, someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the consolidated financial statements and the financial information return for the year ended December 31st, 2018, and makes available the approved consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2018 in booklet format to any ratepayer free of charge.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Well, Councillor Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orva, you gave us the soup and the meat, didn't you?
That's what it is.
Thank you.
Fries to go with it?
No.
All right. Thank you. Once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
But some crackers for the soup would be nice.
Hold the gravy.
All right. On to item 6.5, RFP Award Street Sweeper. Mr. Arfield.
Yes. Oh, it's Gary and Lisa. Okay. Miss Parsons is not here. So Miss DeBona and Mr. Shear. I believe that Mr. Orwa is probably going to make his way north So if there are any questions that come up, that agenda item that we have the monthly reports, I'll make note of them and pass them to Mr. Orwa, and we will answer them. Level of dedication here is he's got a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning in Edmonton to finalize details for our intern. And needs to put a work program together with municipal affairs there. So he's got a bit of a drive ahead of him this evening. So Mr. Orwa, drive safely.
Thank you once again, Mr. Orwa.
Yes, and the next one up is consideration for a street sweeper that's come ahead of council with only one bid. It's a bit of a unique item, and I think Ms. DeBona will relay the process that we went through to get this one bid, and it'll be up to council to make a decision on it.
Good afternoon. So through the 2019 capital budget process, council approved $210,000 for a street sweeper for the Public Works Department. On March 5th, we solicited a RFP for a street sweeper. The RFP closed on March 21st, and the proposals were opened. Only one proposal received. The proposal that we received was responsive and responsible and met the required specifications that we put forth. The price of that RFP was $249,000 for a 2019 Elgin Broom Badger, which is a mechanical sweeper, not a vacuum sweeper, which is what was our preference. With a trade-in value on our current 2007 Challenger sweeper of $40,000, which puts us at $209,900, so under budget. Although there was only one bidder, one other manufacturer has a suitable model that meets our specifications, that even though they were aware of the RFP, they chose not to submit a proposal. As part of our due diligence, we also investigated pricing of this and other units to ensure we were getting good pricing. Based on our inquiries, we are confident that the town has received not only competitive, but also good pricing on this unit. In addition, we were inquired through the RMA Capital Purchasing Program. To date, there is not an agreement in place for sweepers in Canada. The town's existing sweeper also came from Joe Johnson and is of proven quality. Over the past 12 years, we have had little to no issues with this unit mechanically, and the service and parts availability has been excellent to us. We recommend that the town proceed with this procurement.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. DeBona, is this proposed new sweeper, is it larger than the old sweeper? Or is it different, or can you?
It's quite the same. It's got the two engines. It's mechanical. Our staff is familiar with it. We're able to make adjustments ourselves to it depending on what we need. They're very happy with it. It is a little bit bigger.
It is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
It's got more horsepower. Our staff really emphasized the two engines, the one driving train and the one that runs the sweeper part. The main reason is because we are doing more work for Volker too. So we're going out of town, so we're driving around, and really we're only using the one engine to drive around then. So that's the wear and tear on the operating engine. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Strauss?
Your Worship, I'm ready to proceed with a motion. I'd like to thank our delegation here for being so diligent and checking all the different proposals and RFPs on this. That's highly commended. Thank you very much for that. And the council awards a street sweeper RFP to FST Canada Inc., operating as Joe Johnson Equipment at a total cost of $209,900 with expenses to be taken from the 2019 capital budget.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.6, RFP award 2020 commercial garbage truck. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. DeBona and Mr. Scheer again to lead us through this one.
Through our 2020 capital budget process, you approved $350,000 for a commercial side load garbage truck in the 2020 budget for the Public Works Department. Currently, commercial garbage trucks are not included as part of the RMA Capital Purchasing Program. So on March 5th, we solicited a request for proposal. The RFP closed on March 21st and the proposals opened on March 29th. 2 bids were received. Both were from Superior Truck Equipment in Calgary. The first bid was on a Freightliner truck with a Labrie 32 cubic yard Sprinter body and the second was an international with the same body. Both proposals were responsive and responsible and met our required specifications. The reason that we probably only got bids from the one company is very few manufacturers make this type of side loading garbage truck anymore that we need to pick up our commercial 3 cubic yard bins. A comparable price received from another manufacturer in 2018 was 30% higher than the bids we received on this RFP. It is very important that the town receive this unit early in 2020. Delivery of the international unit would not be until June of 2020, and the Freightliner could get in January of 2020. So for that reason, we recommend that the town proceed with the procurement of the Freightliner truck at $310,110, which is the lowest bid and the shortest delivery time. Delivery and payment of this unit will not be until the 2020 budget in January.
All right, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Question, why is it so important we get it earlier? Like we're running into troubles that we're desperate for it?
Yeah, we have 2 commercial side load garbage trucks right now. One is 17 years old and one is 11 years old, and the 17-year-old is starting to go down.
Yeah.
So for repair costs and not being without a backup truck.
Understandable then. And do we have any other Freightliners in our fleet? We do. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship, to our delegation here. There's in the two bids here. There's a $15,000 difference, and I can see that one is an international that would be serviced in town. I'm assuming, and the other one would have to go to Lethbridge. Would there be any cost savings in accumulated over the years in having it serviced in town as compared to out of town?
You'd be talking about just warranty service. So
well,
with the Freightliner?
Well, after the warranty expires.
Well, then our mechanic would do that.
We would be doing the repairs in-house anyways, except for warranty work.
So you wouldn't have to rely on, okay, well, that clarifies that for me. Thank you.
And also the back end, the actual garbage unit, Summit Motors does the warranty work for Superior. Mm-hmm. So that's one good item we like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council awards the 2020 commercial garbage truck RFP to Superior Truck Equipment at a total cost of $310,110. Expenses to be taken from the 2020 capital budget.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Item 6.7, proposed street light request. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, this is a request that has come from the Taber Police Service and is being handled through Public Works, as street lighting is a Public Works responsibility. Mr. Scheer, if you'd like to get into the explanation.
Sure. Taber Police Chief Dr. Bella came to us and approached us and informed us the high crime rate in 2 lanes, and they would like some lighting to ensure that they have visual contact down the lanes. You can see from Chief of Bella's letter, his letter of recommendation, his letter of concern of the areas. So he's asking that council put street lighting down those 2 lanes. There is a high cost associated with this, but if you look up in the poles, there's a number of wires, so they're going to have to move wires around to get these lights in. That, to me, is a little bit high, but it's to do with moving the wires.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Beckery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scheer, what do you think? Is this a good idea?
I think it's a very good idea. I think it would help your police out immensely with their patrol.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, with these lights, Councillor Garner and I took a drive through that alley and we see the poles are marked. Is that the final place?
Yes. Those? It would be a lot bigger cost if we put actual street lighting in, and it would have to be in somebody's parking area. So okay. We're better off to use what's there.
We were just questioning the placement. The one light's right across from the back lot of the liquor store there that has a big bright LED light that shines there. And
we would get it shining farther out into the lane.
I think if they'd moved the poles one over, they would have covered all the dock areas.
Okay.
Just that was our opinion.
If we could bring up the map, please.
Yeah,
There's a map.
and
We can work that out. I mean, placements, really, we can move it back and forth.
The cost is more just for the number of lights.
Have we considered, like I own a building further down one of those alleys. I'd be more than willing to put a light on my building and even pay the power cost for if you guys expire. Like things like that, have we explored businesses putting lights up?
It's more of an issue of maintenance then. If somebody comes and break it, is the town going to be liable for that then, or is the business owner? Right? This way that they're all elevated, they're LED lights, they're nice and bright, it lights up the lane.
I can see a reason there with the liability of the lights. And these, what I read, are 150 watts.
They're bright.
They shine straight down.
How much brighter than the ones we have in the streets now?
The streets are about 90.
Oh, so they are brighter than our
Yes.
street lights. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Strautmans.
Being that they're so much brighter, is this going to affect residents that have apartments, resident dwellers in that back lanes there?
They don't shine out, they shine down. That was our full intent when we met Forrest out there, is that they shine and line up the lane.
So it wouldn't affect the residents as
Well,
far as.
it's going to be lighter naturally. It's
Yeah,
gonna
but it's
affect
not
us-
like it's going to be
No,
shining in their
It's not like it's going to be
windows.
broad daylight at midnight, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that council directs administration to have street lights installed in the alley on the 5300 block of 48th Avenue and the alley at 5303 47th Avenue for a cost of $8,703.82 to be funded from the capital reserves.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Item 6.8, Economic Development of Alberta update to council. Mr. Armfield.
yes, there's a couple coming out of the please, Ms. Monks, come up. There's a couple items coming out of our Planning and Economic Development Department, really related to some strategic planning directions that council has given administration, and just wanting to make sure that you are informed of administration's activities here, and that if you have some redirection for us, that you provide that for us, because we are moving down the road, so to speak, on a couple of items here. So please, Ms. Monks.
Your Worship, members of council, administration would bring forward an update relating to the Economic Developers of Alberta Conference and AGM held in early April. The town of Taber is a member of EDA, and Ben Young was in attendance to represent the town. The Growing Our Economic Future Taber Regional Economic Development Strategy was a candidate for 2 EDA awards, Community Economic Development and Business Investment and Attraction. The competition was stiff, and Taber represented as a finalist, but unfortunately we did not win those awards. Southern Alberta represented well, however, with Trevor Lewington from EDL winning Economic Developer of the Year, and Bev Thornton, of Executive Director at Alberta Southwest Regional Economic Development, winning the President's Award. So very good news for Southern Alberta. The conference itself is an excellent opportunity for growth and learning, and the 2020 session will be themed Fostering Innovation, Transformation, and Diversification. Elected officials are encouraged to attend, and will be certain to circulate the information for those interested early next year. Finally, we're excited to let you know that our very own Ben Young was elected to the EDA Board of Directors for a 2-year term. Knowing Ben as we do, we're certain he will represent our community very well. Congratulations, Ben.
Thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
I can make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that council accepts the Economic Developers of Alberta update for information.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.9, Canada's Premier Food Corridor update to council. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I'm going to pass this back to Ms. Monks to bring council an update on this one.
So administration would like to take this opportunity to update you on a collaboration that the Economic Development Group has embarked on with the MD, the Town of Coaldale, Lethbridge County, and Economic Development Lethbridge. You're likely aware that we had started working on an initiative to market our region as a food production and processing powerhouse to global audiences. The group has developed a brand, Canada's Premier Food Corridor. This group meets frequently and is working with both Protein Industries Canada, so PIC, and the Plant Protein Alliance of Alberta, PPAA. The federal government has committed to investing $150 million in PIC over 5 years, with the goal to move Canada to second place in global agricultural exports and fifth exports, and fifth in agri-food exports. The town of Taber holds memberships in both PIC and PPAA as non-voting members. Our CPFC has been actively working on activities such as asset mapping, grant application writing, and stakeholder engagement. And we're currently working with Community Futures to build a website and create marketing materials to use while attending trade shows and for prospective business interests. It's our feeling that by working together as a group, we're stronger than any individual municipality, and working as a region puts us on the map globally in ways that working on our own we cannot accomplish. From May 29th to 31st, representatives from CPFC will attend the Bridge to Food Summit in Saskatoon. The following week, June 3rd to 5th, the second half of the summit is in Calgary. The town of Taber will be a part of the CPFC representation, and we anticipate European businesses will be in attendance. On June 1st, CPFC will host a tour of summit delegates to our region. They will be brought down from Calgary by motor coach for a day in the region. The excursion plans for facility tours, a 100-mile lunch, discussions about the region's superior irrigation, and our other assets. Longer range plans for CPFC will include the purchase of a trade show booth, marketing materials, promotional videos, and the development of a 3-year communications plan. We'll continue to support agricultural awareness activities and host investment missions to the region. We plan a long-term commitment to the initiative. To date, Planning and Economic Development has committed funds towards marketing materials, website, and the Summit Region Tour. We'd anticipate continuing to contribute, and if there are larger projects planned in future, we would look to include them in budget submissions in future years or as one-off budget requests for any unexpected but encouraging opportunities. We're hopeful that by working together as a region, we can represent Taber and the area as a viable competitive opportunity internationally. Administration wanted to be certain that Council's kept up to date on this initiative and will continue to provide updates as we move this project forward.
Great. Thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to say this is an exciting initiative and nice work. I'm excited to hear how it all pans out. Thank you.
Councillor Begrin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Monks, what's a 100-mile lunch? Does it take 100 miles to eat, or what is it?
I think that everything is grown within 100 miles.
Thank you.
Thank you. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council accepts the Canada's Premier Food Corridor update for information purposes.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. Item 610, whistleblower policy procedure. Mr. Arnfield.
Yes, this is Mr. Dusky's next couple items. In the quest to move along with our policy review, we've got a couple more for council here this evening. The first one is the whistleblower hotline policy.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Dusky.
So whistleblower policy procedure is has a 3-year review timeline, which necessitated this update. There are no changes to the policy or procedure. It's just a regular update.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that council approves the whistleblower policy ADM-6 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 611, travel subsistence policy procedure. Mr. Arnfield.
Yes, the next policy for consideration is the travel and subsistence policy. You'll see that we have proposed an increase in some of the meal allotments. Mr. Dusky can take us through that.
Great, thank you.
So in review of this policy, I looked at the CRA, Canadian Revenue Agency, allotted amounts for meals for Canada for all the provinces. So under the financial impact, you can see what our current amount is for breakfast, lunch, and supper, what the CRA 2017 April amount is suggested, and then our new proposed amount that we would like to propose for the changes. Along with, this is the primary change, along with a small reminder on page 2 of the procedure for all employees to utilize the Taber car rental program whenever doing company business.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising whatsoever? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council approves travel and subsistence policy CS-HR-1 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 612, whistleblower hotline. Mr. Armfield.
The next is an update from MNP, who looks after our whistleblower hotline, to let council know that over the past few months there's been no calls to the whistleblower hotline.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Becker.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion then. The council accepts the statistical report from MNP LLP regarding the whistleblower hotline ethics alert for the period of January the 1st, 2019 to March the 31st, 2019 for information purposes only.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 613, information for council. Mr. Armfield.
A couple of specific items of information coming from our recreation department that Ms. Phillips could probably expand on if council wished. The one is the construction of the fourth ball diamond. It is underway. I believe that society is looking for some grants. The MD is graciously doing some groundwork for us at this point in time. And that we have awarded the recreation master plan, and that's actually underway. A meeting with RC Strategies, and I believe the rec board is happening on Thursday evening, the first kickoff. Yes, so that's the details on that one. Any other questions? Please ask away.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Just if there's any questions regarding those two projects, just want to make sure the council was aware of what we
great.
were working on.
Thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Bruin.
Just a question on the baseball diamonds. When are they expecting the completion of that, or how is that going to finish up this year?
There's another board meeting tomorrow where I'm hoping to get a little more clarification. Part of what was presented to the rec board last year was that they wanted to use what the town had as the $250,000 budgeted for capital to use towards grants. So if they start the project before applying for the grants, it doesn't work. So hoping for some clarification on that tomorrow. I know part of the group would like to start right away and get it done and up and running so that by next season they're ready to go. So we'll see what kind of comes of the meeting tomorrow night. And then it'll go back to the rec board from there. The rec board has asked for clarification on budget numbers as well as clarification on the grants. So we'll know more, I guess, between that meeting and the rec board meeting next week.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Someone prepared to make that motion. Anyone? Councillor Stravas.
It's, Your Worship, that council accept material received in this agenda item for information purposes.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 614, department reports. I'm going to go through these individually. If somebody has a question, please advise accordingly. HR activity reports. Recreation Department report, Engineering and Public Works report, Water and Wastewater report, Plan and Economic Development report, Fire Department report, Finance Activity report, Chief Administrative Office report, Administrative Services report. No questions whatsoever. Someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor Firth.
Actually, I just had one question, Mr. Mayor, for
right.
our Public Works Department. I noticed that the residential diversion rates we're not diverting as much waste as we were. Is there a reason for that?
Things will start picking up as people start mowing the lawn, trimming their trees now. You'll actually see the organics program pick up in the next couple of months. That's the difference.
Thank you for that explanation.
Any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council accepts the department reports for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a busy month. I attended the South Grow AGM in Coaldale, library board meeting, a school tour to the town office from Tabor Mennonite School, the Tabor Nottagawa Friendship Society meeting, the Sports Hall of Fame induction banquet, inducting Del Cleland and Brandy Merritt Minaga into the Tabor and District Sports Hall of Fame, a couple of coffee with councils, a presentation by Stars Air Ambulance, the volunteer recognition banquet, an employee recognition event here in council chambers, and I had the opportunity to volunteer at the park run out at Trout Pond on Saturday. That was a good experience. That's all I've got.
Mr. Bickering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing extensive to report. I attended all the meetings I'm required to attend. Also, really enjoyed the STARS presentation. I learned a lot that day. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Thames?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Garner?
I attended numerous meetings this past period. Twice at Coffee with Council. I attended a traffic committee meeting, a PAC meeting that Mr. Armstrong and I met with the PAC committee. STARS presentation, as Matt already mentioned, met with the Chamber of Commerce with regards to the upcoming parade and some of the thoughts there, and met extensively with the Chamber of Commerce on numerous things this past month.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strauss?
Yes, Your Worship, I also attended the STARS meeting, and I found that even being on the Charity Auction Committee, there's still lots more information that you pick up attending that. I also attended the Volunteer Appreciation with Deputy Mayor Firth, and I want to just put a little bouquet out to Deputy Mayor Firth for the excellent job she did that evening, making the presentations and all. It was did a very good job. Also, better part of last week, I spent in Edmonton with Alberta Seniors Housing, and I was there during the election, and it certainly was an eye-opener being there. And the Alberta Senior Housing Corporation is moving ahead, and they've got some good programs ahead, and it's a good information conference to be at for our local seniors.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
I attended numerous meetings over the month. I'd like to mention the STARS charity auction. That was it's very, very touching auction actually, and I think a very successful one again. The STARS presentation here was very interesting. Always learning more about that. Tabor Police Commission meetings and ongoings with that. It's been a fairly busy month.
Great, thank you. And I've also had a very busy month, and I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Firth also for stepping up for myself where there was a need, and filling in where necessary, as well as other councillors who've also done the same for events that I was not able to attend. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accept mayor and councillor reports for information.
Thank you. A motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 616, stat and item council requests. Mr. Armfield.
This is the opportunity that council has to ask administration any questions and give us any direction through the form of a motion. If you can ask us a question, we might reserve the right to get back to you within a couple of weeks, but we'll try to handle it on the spot.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Anything arising from anyone in particular? Councillor Garner.
I've got an initiative that I would like to approach council on and administration with regards to possibly purchasing some benches for down Main, 4 benches in total down on Main Street, primarily located on those bulb out locations downtown. I see a need there in that when people use the handy bus, seniors need a place to sit while they're waiting for the handy bus to come instead of just standing there, and we don't provide anything like that. So I've drafted a motion that I would like to present this evening with regards to that. I've talked to most of the councillors and proposed location of 4 benches that we could possibly purchase through our discretionary fund. So I would entertain any questions at this time before I make that motion, or get some feedback from anyone.
Questions? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Garner. $5,500 for 4 benches, isn't that kind of steep?
Well, I've looked at some catalogs along with Mayor Prokop a few months ago, and they don't give those things away. They're weatherproof. They're powder coated. You know, they're built to be outside. So,
Sir Bruin.
Are these the same type of benches we have in the spray park? Or are these going more ornate?
they're a little more dressed up than the Blue Imp playground stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Supplementary question. What's the idea here? To bolt them down or?
Absolutely, unless we want them to walk away.
All right. No, sorry. Councillor Strauss had a question.
Your Worship, just a question. I'm assuming Councillor Garner here made an inquiry with our finance director here as whether or not we have the $5,500 in the council discretionary fund budget.
Not as of yet, but I can do that.
Just difficult to make a motion if we don't know there's money there.
Just off the top, I don't believe we've used more than $10,000 maybe.
Yeah, there would still be room within the council discretionary fund if we're looking at 5,500.
And just another question. I'm not speaking against the motion possibility at all. I think it's a good idea all the way around. I also just question the cost possibility if some other research could be done if there is a possible cheaper option there. That's
sure. I mean, we could entertain that.
Just a suggestion. Yeah, I don't know. We've been good, been lucky in different ways, been having different things donated, et cetera, and different builds from different organizations, et cetera. Some other businesses come to mind. I don't want to specify at the moment here, but just a bit of research, I think, just to make sure, just as Councillor Beckering indicated, there's maybe something we can do is just as suitable for a more reasonable price possibly, and maybe not. But the research I think needs to be done.
Okay. At this time, I'll withdraw my possible motion until somebody wants to do some more research. But I think that there's prefab commercial grade benches that are very suitable. So,
Your Worship, I don't see why we want to delay this here. If we make a motion up to $5,500 and instruct them to have a look at some different options and whatnot, I think Councillor Garner can proceed with the motion at this time.
Okay, are you okay with that, Your Worship?
Well, it was just my suggestion. Like I said, it wasn't in stone.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Furley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Garner. I like the idea. I do think that there's a need downtown for some benches. Have you considered the possibility of approaching local service groups and having them possibly donate a bench, and then they could have a plaque on it, and then it would decrease the cost for the town and also increase the visibility of our local service groups?
No, I haven't, but we could possibly do that if that's your desire.
Just a thought.
Some thought options, that's all. Councillor Brown.
I like Councillor First's suggestion of the sponsorship because we put something classy with a nice plaque on it. I think would be very suitable. There's somebody's face floating around town I look at quite often on a bench.
I pay $65 a month for that face.
You might want to see someone about that.
The principle and the idea is a great idea all the way around. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. Is all. Yeah.
I understand. I understand some of your concerns, but in looking at around at some other Southern Alberta communities, I think we're really lacking there. And I think we want something that's classy, but yet vandal-proof, powder-coated, that type of thing. And I'm not so sure that we can do that locally, maybe. So I'm still prepared to make that motion that Council directs administration to purchase 4 weatherproof benches to be installed down in the downtown core on Main Street, 48th Avenue, namely on the bulb outs of 51st Street and 53rd Street, one on each bulb out, to a maximum cost of no more than $5,500 total to be paid from the Council's discretionary fund, with the work to be completed before September 15th, 2019.
Sir Towns.
Accept a friendly amendment instead of saying to purchase 4 weatherproof, to purchase and or accept donations, gives us room to maneuver.
It's fine. I can accept that.
All right. Friendly amendment motion on the table. Any further questions? All in favor? Carry them on. All right. That'll do it. As far as we're on to our delegations for 5 p.m. Correct. So I would ask for a motion. I believe we have a dinner break ready to go. Correct. Just a motion to break till 5 p.m. for our delegations. Attendance. Councillor Becker, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
That's got an amendment to it. But
Sorry, it wasn't all that good. So that we are we live?
All right, can I have a motion to reconvene the meeting, please?
Make that motion.
Councilor Garner. All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried, announced. Thank you. On to item 7.1, delegations, International Practical Shooting Confederation of Canada. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I've just got a text from Mr. Walter Hornby, who would be looking after this one. He's just on his way in. He'll probably be about 10 minutes late, he said. So
okay.
I would recommend to council that we switch the two delegations up.
We can certainly do that. All right, thank you. On to item 7.2, Southern Alberta Society of Veterans United Nations Peacekeeping half-mast flag requests. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, so Mr. Barry is here to make a request, and it's really outside of the flag policy. It has to do with the cenotaph that the flag policy is silent on. And so what we'd be looking for is Mr. Barry to make his request of council, and then council direct administration through the form of a policy how you would like us to handle this one. So Mr. Barry,
right,
please come up and...
Mr. Barry.
I thank you folks very much for allowing me the privilege to come and talk to you. I don't have a whole lot to say. It's just that I'm getting old. You guys wouldn't know anything about that, but I get a little forgetful and I have to write things down.
Oh, that's all right.
Anyway, we had a group, probably about 5 of us, around 7 years ago, decided to break away from the Legion and start our own UN group. And we joined the Canadian Association of United Nations Peacekeeping Veterans. It's a national organization, and we have a chapter here in Taber. And we look after not just UN or NATO vets, but everyone from the First World War, not many around now, but right up to Afghanistan and everything in between. Besides helping them out financially, we go do repairs at their house, that kind of thing. But you guys are not interested in that. That's not what I'm here for. I digress every now and then. Every year, on a couple of different occasions, we have different ceremonies held at the cenotaph. And in the past, it's always been just, I get a hold of Eileen and tell her we want to use the cenotaph this day. And if there's either a bit messy over there at all, we offer to, or volunteer to go clean it up and all that. And we've been doing that for the last 7 years. Some of you guys have been there, as a matter of fact. A couple of weeks ago, I called in and we kind of revamping our things with the club, and we wanted to lower the flag to half-staff when a veteran passes away. And the flag would be at half-staff for the 2 or 3 days that they're having a wake or whatever it is. When they're put in the ground on the final day, the flag goes back up. The flag's never removed from the flagpole. It'll never be replaced with another flag. If it's a UN or a NATO veteran, or one of the anniversaries of different deployments where, you know, guys were killed, then we go do our little thing. But I have, how do you explain it? I guess we have our crest, and we have a UN flag, and we have a NATO flag, and the last little while we've been putting the provincial flag in the middle. So the main one with the Canadian flag is never, never touched. It's just come down, go back up. When it needs to be replaced, I used to go to Eileen, tell her I need a flag. I go down, take it down, back up again, and we're good to go. What we'd like from the council was to allow us to do that. I've got a copy of the Tabor flag protocol, and be no other place around town other than the cenotaph we would do this, and it would be for veterans only. I know I'm not supposed to speak bad of the Legion. There's times over there that these guys put the flag at half-staff when a secretary passes away, and she gets full military honors because she's there the whole time. That's one of the reasons why our guys left. You know, they've gotten away from the military way of doing things and all that. And I promised June I wouldn't get into that, so stop that. One other thing, if you folks agree to it, is we would like to get the cadets involved more with activities around the cenotaph. Before I called the lady, I went out and I bought a nice power washer that has the materials in there for cleaning, and we get Tommy Love, a nice thing, and I'd hope that we'd be able to get the cadets to do that, but I don't know, according to what I got from that, we weren't welcome to be doing that kind of thing. Recently, we celebrated the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and I was hoping we'd be able to lower the flag that day, because a lot of the guys that are on that cenotaph over there are Second World War vets and First World War vets. But I just assumed we weren't going to. I even went to my buddies at the Legion and said, why don't we go to the council? You're a veterans organization. We are. And they just told me, no, we don't want to. Okay. And then they went ahead and lowered the flag themselves at the cenotaph. I don't know if you people were aware of that, but
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Berry. Clarification, who controls the flags at the cenotaph then? That is the town of Legion, or are you guys like
the town has full say about what happened to it. And any time we used it, that we lower it to half-staff, I would call the town and say, listen, we want to do this way, and I'd always ask, would you like some chairs? Would you like that? And, you know, we always got it. But this time, no.
Okay. I support you guys and the Legion both. I think you're both great organizations, but I just want. So you say when any veteran passes,
yeah,
like you're talking NATO.
No.
There's a lot of veterans. I'm sorry to say that.
Oh no, not.
It's local.
Not across Canada. Local.
Okay.
Local veteran. Our area is southern Alberta, so. Pincher Creek, Calgary, that area.
No, it's just to be clear on that. That's how you did it there. I think what you're doing is good, and other councillors, I think it's only fitting that our flag is lowered at these occasions. So that's my opinion. Your comments, you said you were going on about what you guys do in the town. A lot of us are very interested in that, so we appreciate what you do. So thank you, Mr. Berry.
Any other questions? Mr. Beer, I was just not clear. I'm looking at the background information that was talking about if someone passed away that was a veteran, a resident of Tabor. This is what is written here. But you're saying it's actually from Calgary south?
No. I'm notified by the funeral home that, so-and-so has passed away and his service is going to be this time. And that's the only time the flag would be lowered. Like if someone in Brooks that none of us had ever heard of, or Edmonton.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting. It does say town of Tabor. So are you talking town of Tabor and or area?
Yeah.
A resident Tabor or Tabor area would qualify in your mind there. But is there somewhere we're drawing the line? That's what I'm getting at.
As long as the funeral home called me and say we have a veteran here, that is going to be.
So it's somewhere in the, either in Tabor, municipality of Tabor itself, or the immediate area?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Councillor Chavez.
Just for clarification, Mr. Barry, you mentioned that you had asked if the cadets could clean up around there, and you were told no, they couldn't do that. Is that what I gathered that you were saying?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Did I misunderstand that?
Probably because no, I'd never asked for that. The only thing I asked about was the flag being lowered, and the.
Oh, but just back up here. You made a statement that you wanted to get the kids involved to spray wash around there and clean up around there. Is that not what you said?
That's what we want to do. Now, when I was with the Legion, Ed and I were going to do this a long time ago. The cadets, when we got the new cenotaph put up there, the cadets were going to come and do the cleaning and all that. And the cadet officers were supposed to organize a little program for them to do this every now and then. And I'm not sure what happened to it. I left the Legion and...
Okay, so that's an internal thing that has to be sorted out with the cadets. It's not something that the town said you couldn't do.
No.
Okay,
no.
I just didn't. No, I just want clarification of that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems to me we're only concerned at this point with raising or lowering and raising the flag, right? Mr. Barry, that's the only thing you're concerned with. And you would do that upon request of the funeral home that a veteran has passed away.
Yep.
And it seems very clear to me. I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
I'll move that council authorizes the request from the Southern Alberta Society of Veterans and United Nations Peacekeeping, SASVUNP, to half-mast the Canadian flag at the cenotaph location when a veteran passes away, and that council authorizes the half-masting for the time period of the notification of death until the burial of the veteran. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the question, do I stop there or do I continue?
Well, what we would like is for things like Vimy Ridge. We got D-Day coming up, June 6th, things like that. And we lower the flag at sunrise and back up again sunset.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Barry, that's not what it says in our recommendation from administration. So I'm going to leave it at that unless there's a fellow council wishes to make a friendly amendment, which I would accept. But I'm going to leave it alone at that.
Thank you. Anything to add? Councillor Bruin.
I'm just wondering, Councillor Beckering, you're leaving it at the number one, number two, you're not going to proceed with that further.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I stopped because I think it should be a separate motion.
That's correct.
Okay.
It would be a separate motion. Correct. Mr. Arfield, do we be looking for two motions out of this, correct?
This is ultimately, administration has made a recommendation for 3 motions, but this is really in council's wheelhouse to direct administration to take the information from Mr. Barry and then pass us the direction to the form of a motion. And what we will likely do then is amend the policy. So we would bring the policy back then to council based on what the motion was at the next council meeting to update that policy. That's our intent. Right. So really, we're not trying to guide council down the path of telling us to do one thing or another. The options are there in front of you, and what council feels comfortable with authorizing through the policy, we will then amend that policy and bring it back for approval.
All right, thank you. So we do have one motion on the table through Councillor Becker. Councillor Brown.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, one more question. If you have the authorization to lower the flag, and the Legion does, back to the question, who controls it? We're not going to have a conflict with who's raising or lowering the flag?
I don't think so.
It's all out of respect, and I hope there isn't nothing.
It is so. I would prefer if our group would be the ones that were responsible for raising and lowering. And I don't think you have any issues from the Legion because they don't like getting up that early sometimes to go out at sunrise and lower it, you know. And
is that something we need to have more discussion with to make sure there isn't a conflict when something happens? And if they want to lower the flag for D-Day and you guys want to lower it, who lowers it?
well, like I said earlier,
It's not
that
really, I guess, town's deal there.
as far as we're concerned, it'd be only when a veteran passes or when the occasions, you know, of veterans. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but none of this would be done without me contacting the town and say, is it okay to do this? I mean, I wouldn't just go over and lower the flag. You know, you people would have 100% control over that.
All right. Once again, Councillor Straumas.
Your Worship, I just want to reiterate what Council Beckering's motion was. It's just to deal with the lowering of the flag for the passing of the veterans. So the D-Day and other things doesn't enter into this motion. That's got to be a separate item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Scholes, that was my motion. However, if you wish to insert a friendly amendment to that, feel free to do so. I would accept it. But my motion stands as it's.
Once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And now just to confirm, Mr. Armfeldt, you were looking for that second motion possibility, or you can still bring that back to?
No, so what we'll do now is we'll take that motion and we will revise the policy. And in addition, some of the concerns of Councillor Bruin, we will highlight then in the procedure. And we'll make the procedure as crystal clear as we can with regards to who gets to raise and lower the flags based off of your policy direction.
All right, fair enough. Perfect. Thank you. All right, on to our initial delegation. Item 7.1, International Practical Shooting Confederation. Mr. Armfeldt.
Yes, Mr. Walter Hornby is here in attendance, and I'd ask him to have a seat at the hot seat. He's representing the International Practical Shooting Confederation with regards to hosting the Alberta tournament here the weekend of Canada Day. There's been a request come in to extend some services to the MD that I don't really have the authority to do, so council does, and so he's here to make that request.
Thank you. Mr. Hornby.
Okay, my name's Walter Hornby, and as was stated, I'm here today representing the 2019 International Practical Shooting Confederation, commonly known as IPSC Provincials. The 2019 IPSC Provincials will be held at the Tabor Shooting Foundation Outdoor Range June 29th, 30th, and July 1st, 2018. We have registered 200 shooters for this match, which represents an $840,000 economic boost to the local economy. We're here today to ask the town council to assist the match by providing disposal services. We're specifically asking that 8 black garbage carts, 8 recyclable garbage carts, 1 garbage disposal bin, and 1 cardboard disposal bin be provided by the town table for the match and picked up and empty after the match. The match will recognize the town's contribution by naming the response on the website, in the match booklet, on a sign posted at the match.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Brown.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. Do we have 8 black garbage carts like this? Like we have this, all this equipment?
Yeah, we've...
That's the industrial, the big, okay. I think it's great, so I support something like this 100%.
All right, Councillor Straumas.
Bishop, I just want to reiterate that while I was in Edmonton, met a lady there who's the past president of CARP, which is the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, and she had a friend coming from the Czech Republic to this shooting event, and she already knew about this. So, you know, this is quite a feather in Tabor's cap, be it in the MD or wherever. It's all Tabor, you know, so it's just a great thing to do for our community.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Brown?
I'm prepared to make a motion that the town of Tabor provide 8 black garbage bags, 8 recyclable garbage carts, 1 garbage disposal bin, and 1 cardboard disposal bin be supplied to the sorry, I've lost the 2019 IPSC provincials.
Councillor Brown, I believe we're getting off track.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're reading there, but I have the actual
Oh, I'm sorry.
recommendation before me. That's
May I
not it.
withdraw my thing there? I thought I didn't see the recommendation there. I'm sorry. I was going off this. May I?
So you will withdraw
May I
the initial?
withdraw that messages, mate?
Absolutely.
Please do.
Sorry.
Please
sorry
do.
about that.
Yes, that would be preferred, absolutely.
If I may. I'm sorry. I would like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, if I can, that council authorizes the request from the Southern Alberta Societies of Veterans. I'm in the wrong one again, sorry. I'm going to just slowly just sit back here and let someone I've totally lost my...
Your worship.
Before that one.
We need to discuss who.
I'm sorry, I've gone because we skipped the...
Before we make this
Councillor
motion,
Chavez.
I think we need to find a council member that would act on behalf of attending to this event here, and then we can proceed with Councillor Bruin's motion.
Please, I apologize.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Councillor Chavez, you had something to add there?
Well, no, it's just that we should designate a council member to attend this function. So I don't know, are you attending as the shooter, or are you going to attend as an official capacity?
Myself?
Yeah.
I would be most graciously honored to attend that particular event, absolutely.
So you're not in the competition?
But no, I will not be shooting in that event.
Okay. Well, then I think it only makes sense that the mayor attend this year. And Councillor Bruin, you can now proceed with your motion.
Well, I don't want to shoot it.
Would you like me to make the motion?
No, I can carry on. I'm sorry, I got mixed up with we changed our delegation order there, so I didn't flip my pages. So we'd like to be appointing the mayor there. I'd like to make the motion that council appoints Mayor Andy Prokoff as a designate to attend the International Practical Shooting Federation Provincials event, banquet, and award ceremony as a representative of the town of Tabor. And council approves the supply of town garbage and recycling bins to the event held at the Tabor Shooting Complex. That's much better worded.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hornby.
Thank you very much.
Sure glad you clarified that.
Thank you, sir. Sorry.
All right. Item number 8, meeting inquiries. Tabor Times, Trevor.
No inquiries. Make sure you archive that.
It's BRUIN.
You can go to live streaming and take another look at that all you want.
All right, great. Thank you. Then next up, we would ask for a motion to move into closed session, please. Councillor Towns?
Mr. Mayor.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good. Thank you.